If you're trusting a traditional retirement account to take care of you, you might be broke by the time you're 70, probably even sooner. But there's a way to flip the script on that, and it all starts with taking control yourself. Now, that leads me into my topic. I'm going to go over the 7 reasons why you should start self-directing with your retirement account as soon as you can. And just to fend off all the naysayers, you're probably going, hey, I need today money. Retirements are for later on money. Yes, I totally get that. That is for future money. But guess what? There are ways where you can leverage these accounts where you can get today money. So if you're in that camp, stick with me also. I guarantee you'll get some value out of this. So first off, what is self-directing? So self-directing really is, in simple form, it's just you are investing in alternative assets outside of your traditional, say, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds that you get in your regular retirement accounts. Now, with that, reason number 1, so Wall Street has completely lied to you and taken advantage of you guys. And guess what? When you bring up self-directing, they're going to say, hey, that's a hassle. Hey, that's risky. I don't care who you are or what you do. There is risk in literally everything you do. So that's not enough. That's not a good enough reason to not get into this. And yes, they're scare tactics, and I can't necessarily blame them because guess what? That's their business model, and it's worked for them for a long time. How do they make money? They make money off of the selling you stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and managing those funds. That's their business model. It's doing pretty well for them. It's a pretty big industry. So again, that's your Fidelities, your Schwabs, your Vanguards. That's how they make money. So why on earth would they want or like encourage you to go self-direct? Because they know they're not going to allow you to do that. So what happens there? Well, they lose a customer. So if you're going to go self-direct, then that money that you have with them, they are no longer making money. So again, in a lot of these situations, following the money typically gets you the answer. So to give you an example on kind of the fee structure, I was like taking a look at, and again, this isn't always the case, but in a lot of cases, this is where people are at. Like my grandma, I was taking a look at her account the other day, and we finally got her into something that's a little better, well, significantly better. But the thing is, her account, I'm not going to tell the custodian that it was with, but right off the bat, so it was a managed fund. Right off the bat, they took 1% haircut off the top. And on top of that, they had expense ratio heavy products, whereas what I mean by expense ratio is pretty much that's the commission that these stocks or mutual funds are charging to be in them. The commissions that are earned by you purchasing those. A lot of people don't know about that, but when you look at all the prospectus like of these stocks and things, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, you'll see all this. It's like tiny expenses that are nickel and dime. Like you get nickel and dime to death in the stock market. It's ridiculous. So right off the bat, that expense ratios that she was looking at, it was almost another 1%. So without even getting started, you're taking a 2% haircut on your earnings. Tell me a world where that makes sense. That's crazy. So outside of that, the thing is, you got to understand, stocks are not necessarily something that a lot of people are super privy to. It's not something that you really know all that much about. So best case scenario, say you're following like the Warren Buffett methodology where you kind of set it and forget it. You get into something that is more passive where, hey, I'm just going to get into something that's going to track the S&P 500. Say it's some broad-based mutual fund that tracks the S&P 500. That's a good strategy. It's not bad. But on average, you're going to be making maybe 8 to 10% a year, like over the long term, 8 to 10% on that account, which it's fair. But guess what? There's a much better route. So self-directing, another thing here is, guys, it is completely legal. It is 100% custodian dependent. So that's one thing you got to realize. Again, the big main players like your Fidelity, Schwabs, Vanguards, they're not letting you do it because it's not within their business model. So it is legal. It's doable. It's just their account does not allow it because that's not how they make money. So you need to get with a custodian. If you are going to self-direct, you need to get with a custodian that does allow you to do it with that account. So they're typically set up in like a trust account type deal. All that to say, guys, take ownership of your account, put yourself in the driver's seat. I guarantee you it's a much better. So that brings us to reason number 2 why you should do this. So it's your unique advantage. So your unique advantage, what do I mean by that? We all are within our own field, say our day-to-day where we're in a W-2, or maybe it's something that you're super passionate about. You likely have a very unique advantage from your perspective from being within that field or being within that niche that you're super passionate about. And guess what? That unique advantage is likely going to get you better returns, and you're going to be more privy to things on what's actually going to make money in that market. So that's your unique advantage. So again, you get to invest in your niche, what you know. So that is a huge reason why you should get started on this today. And you may be saying, okay, so what do I invest in with an SDRA? Well, guess what? The list of what you can't invest in is significantly shorter in comparison to what you can invest in. So really the only things you can invest in is going to be your life insurance, it's going to be S corporation stock, and it's going to be collectibles like coins, things of that nature, like fine art, wine, like wine collections, because likely you're gonna drink the wine. So again, there's like self-dealing prohibited transactions that you got to be aware of, but that's kind of what their thought process on some of that. We can get into that later. But again, those are the three main items that you can invest in. Outside of that, pretty much the sky's the limit. Like I've seen like people have invested in livestock if they know how to flip livestock, like cows. I invest in real estate within my accounts. I've done loans within my accounts. I've been doing this for the last 5+ years to where I'm self-directing and I'm acquiring real estate. Again, I'm doing loans. I know people that they're in the private equity space. Maybe they're in the tech startup space, stuff like that. The list is expansive, so expansive that it's way more time than what we've got on this particular video right now. So reason number 3. So in these accounts, taxes become optional. And what do I mean by that? Well, first off, when you're talking about retirement accounts, you're either going to have a tax deferred account or you're going to have a tax free account. So tax deferred is going to be like your traditional IRAs, your 401ks. Tax free is going to be more your Roth. Now, what I mean by that is obviously there are some, you're going to be paying taxes at some point in time. The deferred, you're not paying tax until you pull out at retirement. So your earnings are tax deferred. They're not completely tax free because you're paying when you exit the account. The tax free and the Roth, you're actually paying your tax on that income upfront when it's a much smaller amount, and then it grows tax free. It becomes larger, and then when you take it out, it is completely tax-free. That's why I really like this account. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. Consult your professional advisor or your CPA, but in my opinion, this is a way better account. Now, I'll give you an example. So I've got a duplex that I purchased with my Roth IRA account where it was picked up for a $450,000 purchase price. Now, mind you, I did a full seller finance on it. And that's why I was able to leverage a smaller amount to get into this deal, which is an awesome hack that you can do with these accounts. When you leverage them with creative strategies, you can make them go a lot further. But again, $450 purchase price and the ARV, so the after repair value, it did need a little bit of work, but the after repair value, $630,000. Now, traditionally, if I were to sell that within a year, 2, I would have to pay, well, within a year, I'd have to pay short-term capital gains. Within a couple of years, I have to pay long-term capital gains. Well, guess what? Within a Roth, I can sell that, no capital gains. Plus, during the time that I own it, 20% plus cash on cash return. And I don't have to pay any tax on that. So that's a huge, huge benefit. Now, obviously, because it's within these accounts, there are certain other tax benefits that I don't necessarily get. Like I don't get to depreciate the assets, things like that. But guys, if you're determining on whether you should invest in real estate with or without the account, well, guess what? You should always invest in real estate outside of the account. That's fine. But how are you going to make money within your account that's far above and beyond and much better than what you're going to make with Wall Street? Again, 8 to 10%, or do you want 20% plus? And again, I'm just saying real estate because that's what I'm familiar with. Really, you should be investing in what you know, the niche that you understand, where you have a unique advantage. So the other thing I do want to bring up as far as caveats, as far as taxes. Now, each of these accounts, there are 2 gotchas. So there's UBIT and UDFI. So UBIT is unrelated business income tax. Now, this is a tax that you have to pay, say, if you are invested in an operational business, say like a restaurant or something. So really, the IRS doesn't want you to have an unfair advantage against other business owners where they're having to pay tax. So to level the playing field, in those scenarios, you do have to pay UBIT. The other case is going to be UDFI. So unrelated debt financed income. So when this comes into play is, say, for example, in real estate. So for example, this duplex, if you're taking leverage on real estate, then you are going to pay taxes on the portion that is being leveraged. So say you've got a 70% loan to value where the lender's bringing 70% of the purchase price. Well, your earnings, 70% of them are taxed. That's kind of how UDF, very simply put, obviously consult your CPA on this, but very simply put, that's how UDFI works. Now, granted, in real estate, to me, this is negligible because I can negate those quite a bit by like repairs and stuff. You can walk those down quite a bit. So really, this impact is pretty negligible in my opinion. But yeah, so that's that is reason number 3. Now that brings us to reason number 4. So guys, you don't need much to start investing with these accounts. Now, for example, your Roth or your traditional IRA in 2025, the annual contribution was $7,000. And guess what? That's enough to get invested. So to give you an example, now I'm going to have like a large example versus kind of a more down-to-earth example, but to give you an example of what can actually be done, there's this guy named Peter Thiel, and I don't know if you know him, but he's a venture capitalist. He's in the tech startup space. Now, what Peter Thiel is famously known for is his dealings within PayPal. Now, guess what? He invested in PayPal with $2,000 when it first started up. So when it was like super undervalued, it was pre-IPO, so pre its initial product offering or initial public offering. So it was before it was being traded publicly whatsoever, so super undervalued. And he invested in that company with his Roth IRA at $2,000. Well, guess what? 3 years later, that company, so PayPal, was actually sold to eBay for $1.5 billion, guys. That is insane. Now, it's undisclosed as far as like the earnings that Peter Thiel made on that deal, but I guarantee you that 2000, he probably made a pretty substantial return on it. It's guaranteed way over 100% return. Now, granted, obviously we're talking 2K here, but guys, just see the impact on that. That's crazy. But the thing is, he's also investing in what he knows. Again, he's in the tech startup space. So because of that, he was investing in a similar way. And because of that, his account, his Roth IRA, mind you, is now north of $22 billion. Guys, that is completely bananas. Again, going back to this capital gains example, he doesn't have to pay any capital gains tax on that or any other like income tax on that. That's insane. Like the compounding effect on that is ridiculous. The fact that somebody can have $22 billion in their Roth IRA, that's just mind-boggling to me. Freaking cool. Super awesome. Now, to give it more of like a down-to-earth example that maybe you can relate to a little bit more, again, this is possible. This isn't like luck. Luck is not a crazy thing. To be honest with you, a lot of people where you think, oh, that guy's lucky. No, they probably just put in the work. Like a guy was super knowledgeable in his space. He had the unique advantage in his space. That's why he was able to leverage that to really grow that account. But again, to bring it down to earth for some people, another thing you can do is transactional funding. So this is something that I do with my account, is where I'm like lending private money. So in this case, say for example, when you're dealing with like traditional private money lending, private money lending is peer to peer. So in the case, typically like a more common case is peer-to-peer lending for, say, a real estate acquisition. Say you're a private money lender where your money is actually secured by that asset itself. It's secured by the real estate. So if you need to foreclose, you can take that real estate from the borrower. Now that's asset backed. Now transactional funding, that is escrow backed. Now what I mean by that is when it is escrow backed, it's kind of in the real estate process. So when you go to acquire real estate, what you do is you get it under contract, and then you have this whole escrow period to where there's inspections done, so on and so forth. Well, within that inspection period, you put something down called EMD, earnest money deposit. Again, that's a good faith deposit to indicate to the seller that, hey, I'm serious about this offer. I'm serious about purchasing this asset. And again, that's all within the escrow period, and that is held within an escrow account, typically with the title company or a title attorney. Well, guess what? In the investor world, when you're transactional funding, you have escrow-backed products. So you're lending on things like EMD, double closes, which we do double closes. We also lend on like down payment assistance for like no money down type deals. Again, we've got other videos on that. You can do a deep dive on that. Super, super awesome stuff. But in the case of this, if you've got $7K in your account, say your average EMD, maybe $3,000 to $5,000, you can easily do that. And EMD, with the returns on that, you're typically, these are double-digit returns that you're making on that EMD. So you can make a really good return with very little money. So that's, again, one, to bring it down to earth. Again, it's something that you are aware of. If you're not familiar in this space, find someone that's familiar in the space and maybe invest in their deals. Again, it's not about the money. It's about what you invest in with the money. And again, it really should be something that you know. It's invest in what you know. But if you want to be more passive about it, find someone that you know and trust that they have like a track record of returns, then invest in them. So number 5, what is the number 5 reason to get in this? Well, guys, it is more tangible. So these assets are much more tangible than your stocks, bonds, mutual funds, where you have no clue why you even got them. You probably just selected them from like some target date fund, something along those lines. See, with these tangible assets, you have more buy-in, you have more interest in the product. You actually, it's likely something that you, again, it should be something that you understand very well. And guess what? Money follows attention. If you are focusing on something that you know a lot about, it's just going to be a matter of time before you can actually make money with that. Again, depending on the field, but really you can make money with just about anything these days, especially if it's something you're passionate about and you understand the ins and outs. I guarantee you, or you can get with someone that knows how to make money in that space. And again, back to the tangible, look, touch, and feel. For me, I like having a tangible asset that I actually know why it loses money or why it gains money. Much better for me than the stock market. Item number 6, so the compound effect now. So the compound effect is super impactful. So kind of going back to this Peter Thiel example, again, investing in something that he knows, he was able to compound that over and over again to where he's got north of 22 billion in his account. That's the power. That's like the true power of the compounding effect. But put it in simple terms, imagine you've got one apple seed. Now with that apple seed, you plant it and a year later that apple seed grows into a tree. Now say that tree yields 5 apples. And let's say for example purposes, these trees, each tree that you get is always going to yield 5 apples, just for example purposes, so you can see how this works. So say with those 5 apples, now they have 5 seeds. So you plant those 5 seeds and a year later you get 5 more trees. Now that goes 5 times 5, 25 apples. And then every year it just compounds. Again, it's not exactly like that because you're not going to get the exact returns every single year, but you get the picture. It's like a snowball. As it goes down the hill, it gets larger and larger and larger. So it's huge. So in this case, the money being the seeds, the earlier that you plant them, the more time they have to grow and actually become an orchard. Huge. That's a huge impact. That is compound effect. Super impactful. So that brings us to number 7. So number 7, and honestly probably one of the most overlooked facts of these accounts, is the leverage that you can create with them. So what I mean by that is I use these accounts in certain situations. For example, so in my day-to-day, I make my today money through real estate. So with these accounts, I still do that. I make future money with real estate within these accounts, but because they're for future, there are certain instances where I actually lend them to kind of initiate or like start up a relationship in like maybe a field that I have an interest in, or someone that I'm looking to help out within my industry that I'd like to build up a relationship with, and I give more favorable terms. So you can kind of leverage that way to kind of get relationship equity type deal. So that's been impactful. And then there's also share with others what you're doing with these accounts and how you're investing with them. Guess what? That's where today money comes in, because if you're proficient at this and you have a track record of really good solid returns, they're going to start bringing money to you. And that's where the today money comes in. And guys, money talks. And in all honesty, a lot of people, they sleep on this. The amount of money that you can get from leveraging these accounts, it's pretty substantial. The impact you can get from leveraging these accounts, again, super impactful. Okay, guys, with that is the 7 reasons to start self-directing your IRA. So if you're ready to stop relying on broken systems like Wall Street and actually grow your retirement on your terms, like the self-directing option that you have access to, then guys, click below to book a one-on-one with me, and I will help you set up your self-directed strategy from scratch. Or if you're still on the fence, then check out my video on how to invest in real estate with literally no money down, and that'll show you just how powerful this path really is when you combine it with creative strategies. And with that, guys, I will catch you on the next one.